Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and our Sibling Showdown Strategy Series. That's right. Steve and I do a strategy series every week where we talk through different strategies that we need to keep in mind in our best ball drafts. So I'm, of course, joined every week by my brother, my sibling, Steve. Steve, how are you doing? We're going to talk some free agency follow today, but how are you doing and how have you been handling this wild free agency frenzy?
Doing good. Yeah. This offseason between the free agents, the trades, and also and while it's not as much our focus, but also what some of these moves have then opened up on certain teams.
Yeah.
Just really that we're now having a much better understanding of what guys' situations are going to be this coming year, so we can start drafting accordingly.
Yeah. So this episode is going to be fun. This strategy is going to be the top players that we are targeting post free agency frenzy. So the free agents that landed in great situations, great spots. And a lot of these guys, their prices are rising and we don't care because they should be rising. There's some guys, and we'll get to it, like Najee Harris, where I was like, I'm taking a little bit. I wanted to see the landing spot. Now I'm taking the landing spot. I don't care. I'm scooping it up. For the drafts where I got him later, great, but I'm scooping up. He deserves to go up. And that's what we're going to talk through. So this is going to be fun. We're going to go through quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, and then do like a wild card one. And we're going to go back and forth. And that'll end up getting us 10 players that we are targeting the most post free agency based on these free agency landing spots. And then at the end, maybe we could talk about some players like some 49ers receivers or stuff like that now, because maybe a player or two left, now we're liking it a little bit even more and taking more of those type of players. So Steve, I'll let you go first. Quarterbacks. Which quarterback are you targeting post free agency?
I'm going start off with the trade, and that's Geno Smith heading to the Raiders, back with Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly is going to be there, and while I think they're going to be pretty balanced and maybe lean a little bit more towards the run, I think Geno goes to a very good situation. The Raiders O-line, I think, is an upgrade. I think you can't go wrong with Brock Bowers as your number one weapon, and Jacoby Myers is a pretty good, solid weapon as well. I think they also are likely to add another receiver as well. So I just think Geno is in a great spot to get back to what he did a couple of years ago in Seattle when he was like a top 12 fantasy quarterback.
I agree. I definitely need to take more Geno. He was one that, occasionally I'd take late, and now I mean, he's still going, late in the draft. He's a great third quarterback, and I need to take more of him. Whether it's like you have Bowers or you have Myers, or you throw on a Trey Tucker or something like that. And who knows who else lands there? Maybe Ashton Genty. Who knows? So I need to take more Geno for sure. Mine is a guy that I don't usually draft in most draft seasons. I've never been a Justin Fields girl. I don't think he's like the best real life NFL quarterback, but we know that he is a great fantasy asset. So for that reason, I just wrote an article on fanspeak.com. Check it out. All the articles are currently free on Fanspeak. I just wrote a 2-part series. Undervalued players, guys I'm drafting a ton of. Overvalued players, guys I'm not really drafting. I'm not really drafting Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. I don't trust that offense to be incredibly efficient as a whole. I'll probably get a little exposure to them, but I'm not going to have a ton because they go so early. You have to draft them in the second, third round. So I'm not drafting a ton of them, but you don't have to stack up Fields much. Yeah. You like him because of the running upside, right? So but I do need to get, so far I only have a share or two of Fields, and that needs to change. So because I now know that he's with the Jets, got $40 million guaranteed over 2 years, I do think he'll likely have a somewhat long leash this year, even if they draft a rookie. I have to imagine it's like a grooming situation. So I think he should have this year, and I need to draft as such because he is a fantasy asset, especially where he's going. And a lot of these ADPs, keep in mind, they may say a number, but until it self-corrects, it's going to, a lot of these players are going to go way higher than what their ADP says. He likely, I know we just did a Sibling Showdown live draft, went, 20, 30 spots. That's what you're going to see with these guys, because they did get good landing spots or they do have good situations. Now that we know he's going to be a starter, I need to take more, even if it is in that 140s, 130s, 140s range. Is that kind of where you're comfortable taking him after that tier of Bryce Young, basically?
Yeah, I think he fits in real nice right after Bryce Young. And like you said, the running upside is there. Don't care if you get a stack. If you fall into one later, great. If not, he can still be a great spike week guy for you.
Absolutely. Okay, that's quarterbacks. Geno Smith, Justin Fields, running back, Steve. I know this has been your guy, and he got the best landing spot. Let's hear it.
Yeah. My guy is going to be Najee Harris. He goes to the Chargers. 4-year starter with Steelers, hasn't missed a game, had 1,000 yards every single season. I think over 180 plus fantasy points on Underdog every single season. You're still getting him pretty late, even though he's starting to steam up some, but it's absolutely worth it. He goes with the Chargers, best quarterback he's ever played with by far. Running system, really good running system, as we know. And offensive line, they got those bookend tackles. They got some other talent inside. I just think sky's the limit for him. They probably will add a back in the draft, but it's probably more of a day 3 guy now, given what they paid him for this 1-year deal. So yeah, I think he, what's held him, and he's also shown he can be a complete back. He can catch the ball well.
Yeah.
He's just never had more than, I think, 7 rushing touchdowns. Well, I mean, I think Dobbins had like 9 or 10 and he missed 4 weeks. So I just think in terms of his fantasy upside, we're talking about he easily could have 220 plus fantasy points pretty easily.
Yeah, he seems like such a Jim Harbaugh guy. We know Harbaugh likes to run the ball, and I absolutely need to take more of him. I took him some, but I don't care the price. I really need to take a lot more of Najee Harris, and I have been. Again, don't look at what the ADP currently is right now because it needs to adjust. Go grab him ahead of those other guys that don't have more secure roles. There's a lot of like vets or second-year guys. Definitely go get him. I'm getting him like after that tier, there's those tier of rookie running backs that we love, like the Ohio State backs and Caleb Johnson and those guys. And then I'm fine even taking him in like the 70s or 80s, right?
Yeah, I think 80s really starts to look nice because that's kind of right after that tier of rookie backs and like the James Connors and stuff like that. I think he could make the case to be right around there with James Conner and David Montgomery. But if you're getting him in the 80s, like right behind that, like kind of ahead of Ramondre, and honestly, he should go right where I know who you're picking, and we'll get to that in a second. And I think they should go. They're in good similar spots, and I don't want to spoil it all the way. So I'll let you talk about your guy, and I think maybe we should talk about them together.
Yeah, no, mine is actually one that I was kicking and screaming on a Sibling Showdown live draft a week or 2 ago. Steve said, draft Aaron Jones. Well, I wanted to see where he landed. And he landed back with the Minnesota Vikings and one of the best offenses in the league, one of the best play callers in the league. So he obviously did very well with the Vikings, and he's still going in the 80s, Aaron Jones. He's kind of one that's not moved. He's right there in the 80s. I need to take more of them. This is another situation where I wanted to see where, and I'm fine that I waited for that intel. I only took 1 or 2 shares, but now I need to scoop up some more Aaron Jones in that Vikings offense. And like you said, he and Najee, after that, you and I are both obsessed and drafting a ton of rookie running backs. If you watch any Sibling Showdown live drafts, you know that Steve and I love the rookie running backs, love targeting them early, mid, late. We usually have at least 3 minimum in every draft. However, there's a lot of vets we like too still, and these 2 are 2 in like that 80s range that are a perfect target area.
Yeah, they're very safe. Like I said, Najee has never had a year under 180. Usually, I think 185 might be his minimum. And Aaron Jones, a couple years ago when he was banged up, he was under 200, but he gets 200 fantasy points pretty easily. 180 to 200, and I think he had like 212, 215 last year. Yeah, sign me up for that. I mean, that is absolutely fantastic for your 3rd or 4th running back. Just like you said, elite offense, and he's going to be a focal point again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love both those running backs. One going back to a great situation and one going to a pristine situation. And my gosh, I was thinking about when you're talking about Najee. Najee is like the Mike Evans of running backs. It's like in that like Mr. Consistency, right? Mike Evans is Mr. 1000. Najee Harris is Mr. 1000 and just been a steady Eddie. And just, boy, this change to the Chargers offense under Jim Harbaugh seems absolutely elite landing spot. So very excited about that. I know you're really excited to talk about your wide receiver free agency target.
Yeah. And so this one, it did technically get to free agency, but it's a guy who's staying home, and that's Chris Godwin. You look at what Chris Godwin was doing up until that Ravens game, absolutely smashing. Him and Mike Evans were just dominating. And what I love is that Godwin, he's starting to move up some, but because I think people were wary of the injury and wary where he'd go, he was artificially low, and you're getting a guy who he was a top 15 receiver when he got injured. Yeah, sign me up for being back. I know they changed the offense coordinator, but it should be the same sort of system. Baker's been playing great, has played great for 2 years. Yeah, I want as much of this offense as I can get, and Chris Godwin is an excellent way to get a piece of that at a discount right now.
Yeah, I agree. Another one that I need a lot more. Chris Godwin for sure. He left money on the table too. I mean, he
wants to play with Baker.
He wants to play with Baker and with Mike Evans, and so absolutely, I need to get a lot more shares now. And I don't get same situation. I don't care that he's moving up. He should be around ADP at 50. If he's late 40s, early 50s, I definitely need to be taking more Chris Godwin. I believe I took him in a draft yesterday. Actually did a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Baker stack. Don't always do that, but like it is fun when it does kind of fall that way. And yeah, definitely need more Chris Godwin. Mine is a guy that I was taking before I didn't know his landing spot because we have not seen the decline yet at all, really, on Davante Adams. He goes last year, obviously he's played with some, poor quarterback play in Vegas, reunites with his bestie, had a great end to the season with the Jets. But Davante Adams now lands another situation like Najee Harris. Davante Adams lands in a pristine landing spot with Matthew Stafford and the Rams. So you've got Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, just like Puka and Kupp were like such a condensed target tree. I think the same thing is going to be for Davante Adams with Puka. So whether you want to stack it up or just draft it, on its own, I absolutely am targeting Davante. And he's another one. Don't look at the ADP. It's going to adjust. He's now going in the third round. And that, in my opinion, and I believe Steve's opinion too, is correct. So I'm absolutely drafting Davante Adams in the third round. And I'm going to be way overweight Davante Adams this year. Love the lane. I was drafting him a lot before, and now I'm going to keep drafting him even in the third round because I think the landing spot was absolutely perfect. So I'm going to have tons of Davante Adams this year.
Yeah, I think that's a winning strategy because he's still a fantasy producer, like you said, in these poor situations since leaving Green Bay. He now goes to a much better offensive system with Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Who, there's some, where he was in Green Bay, LaFleur, and McVay come from the same tree. So, I think he'll be great. And him and Puka are can soak up all the targets.
Yeah. Before we go to tight end, I will just say the industry seems a little bearish on DK Metcalf trade to Pittsburgh. Obviously, we don't, at this time of recording, don't know who the Steelers quarterback is. I likely think it still will be Aaron Rodgers. If it's Aaron Rodgers, I'm maybe not as bearish as everybody else if he's in that fourth, fifth round range. So, we took him in a draft and it was one of my first shares of DK Metcalf. Let's just say I don't want to be underweight DK Metcalf. I understand Pittsburgh's going to be run heavy, but I understand that it's him and George Pickens in the room, but I still want some DK Metcalf. So that I will say that. Okay, tight end, Steve. Who is your tight end free agency target?
So definitely coming into this offseason, this is a guy I have almost none of, but now that he has a landing spot, I'm really happy because I think it's a fantastic spot, and that's Evan Ingram. I figured all along he'd get cut in Jacksonville with a new system and just the money they could save. But Ingram fits exactly what Sean Payton wants to do, that Joker move tight end. We saw it obviously with Jimmy Graham, and he did with some other guys, with New Orleans in his time there. And yeah, I think Ingram just fits that well. I mean, he's not a blocker. He's kind of like a Mike Gesicki. We talk about Mike Gesicki the same way, and it's fine. He's out there for the valuable snaps that we want, the targets. And I think he can be, probably the third weapon in this offense behind Sutton and Mims, and maybe even push Mims for number 2. We saw that in Jacksonville a couple years ago. So yeah, I just think it's a great landing spot. Exactly what Sean Payton's looking for. Helps out Bo Nix, the young quarterback. And this is a very ascending offense. Broncos have a good offensive line. Probably going to upgrade the running back situation in draft. And yeah, this offense could be one of the higher scoring offenses. So that's just another thing we're tying to ourselves to a really good offense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same as you. I was basically out on Ingram. I wasn't stacking him with Trevor Lawrence. I didn't think he was staying there. So I wasn't targeting him. And I wanted to see is he going to get a good landing spot, or is it going to be one of these where he's in a tight end rotation or not a good offense or something. He got a good landing spot. And so same as honestly, Aaron Jones, Najee, Godwin, these are guys that, I now need to be aggressively targeting more now that I'm happy with their landing spot. So totally agree. I need a lot more Evan Ingram and catch up there. And he's going still, in the live draft that we were just in, he still was going reasonable. Like I want to say what 140s. Yeah. So I want to jump on that and get more Evan Ingram for sure. My tight end target, probably boring to most people, but I'm going to go with the tight end position. Kind of, I value it the least out of all the positions. Juwan Johnson. If you watch Steve and I's live drafts, we do a lot of mid to late round tight end builds. I do a lot of, quite honestly, a lot of late round tight end builds, but we do a lot of mid to late round tight end targets. Juwan Johnson is your third tight end. Going back to New Orleans and Derek Carr, you got a 3-year deal. He's going to be out there. And well, it's not like the sexiest pick ever. Again, he's going to be one of your last picks. Like we're talking like a 19th round pick. So, Juwan Johnson, and hey, 2 years ago, I know he was a week 17 hero. I can't remember what he did last year in week 17. There were a lot of, and a couple were on our, finals teams, my Bulldog and your Big Board finals team that came through, like Zach Ertz. These late round tight ends, I understand that these elite tight ends can totally separate, but these late round tight ends can spike too. And it's that they spike at the right time. And if they cobble together during the season and advance you to the playoffs, and they spike at the right time at the end of the season, drafting 3 of them, you can definitely get there with a Juwan Johnson type. So I'm going to definitely add Juwan Johnson to my portfolio for sure.
Yeah. And I'll just say, Taysom Hill coming off a bad late injury. I don't imagine he's playing this year. Still across from Moreau there, but new coach, new system. But
good coach.
Kellen Moore has favorite tight ends, especially with Dallas, and we saw last year Goddard when he was healthy was involved. So no, I think Juwan Johnson can be a third, fourth piece in this offense, and that's fine. Like you said, 19th, 20th round, that is more than good ROI there.
Absolutely. All right, let's each just do a wild card one, because we covered each position: quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. But there was plenty of other targets that we could mention. But let's just throw out any others that we like.
So I'm going to go with Christian Kirk, another guy who was kind of cut, but ended up being traded to the Texans for like 7th round pick. Look, Texans, Tank Dell, another guy, major injury, not really going to play this year. Stephon Diggs, major injury, free agent, not likely back with the Texans. And Texans need a weapon opposite their stud, Nico Collins, and Christian Kirk fits that bill. These last couple of years, I know he got injured this past year and coming off an injury zone, but he's still relatively young. And I think he can be effective. He was miscast his first year in Jacksonville as the number 1. He's a number 2, number 3 receiver, but he's very good at that. And I think he is going to fit right in working kind of either the vertical deep shots or kind of that underneath. He can do a little of both. He's not like excellent anywhere, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type, but it's what they need opposite Nico.
Yeah, no, I like that. He's another one added to the list. I just need to be making a cognizant effort to add more of these guys who I wasn't super high on before, either thinking they were going to cut or not knowing their landing spot. He's one that I need to add into the portfolio for sure. Mine is going to be Homer pick. Washington, Steve and I are Washington fans, and the Debo landing spot is fun. Listen, I know it was a big time down year, and we've seen a little decline from Debo. He gets banged up a good bit. He was banged up last year. He had pneumonia. Like it wasn't good. It was a bad year for Debo. Yes, it could go either way, but I do think Cliff Kingsbury is the right coach, coordinator to use him effectively in the right way. Maybe a little in the running game too. So I think that they're just going to use him, a lot around the line of scrimmage and get the targets to him. A lot of high leverage spots around the red zone potentially. So getting Debo in, the 60s. I'm definitely more interested now than I was when he was still part of the 49ers, even though we knew he was going to get traded. But he could have gotten a bad landing spot, and he got a great landing spot. So, where his ADP is now, I think is totally fair. And he's another one that he got a great landing spot. And so, yeah, we saw a decline, but I'm going to hope that he has a nice bounce back with Washington, selfishly as a fan, but also in fantasy here. So I'm going to be drafting more Debo. To round out this show, Steve, let's just each give a couple players that we're targeting more because someone in their room left. And, I think this can be tricky because I know there's some people, you won't always agree on these things because we don't know what's going to be added. More could get added in free agency, more could get added in the draft. So we don't know. This is all speculation. Like, for instance, I know a lot of people like Jaylen Warren or some other running back rooms, but I'm like, this is such a good running back class. Like in the case of Pittsburgh, I think they're going to add somebody on day 1 or day 2, and Warren will still be in that, definitely a timeshare role. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I do think there's other situations where I'm like, I don't know that they're going to be able to target there. So I think now I want to target this situation. I'll go first since I've been, talking about this. And speaking of Debo, I now am very interested in the 49ers weapons. The issue with the 49ers was their tree of targets was so wide. And, now, especially if I get McCaffrey early, I like tacking on either Kittle or Parasol or Jennings. Like, I want to do that. And even if I don't get McCaffrey early, I have the highest exposure probably to Parasol just because of the price. But I want to get more Kittle. I want to get more Jennings. I have a lot of McCaffrey. I have a good bit of Parasol. Listen, everything went wrong for that 49ers offense. Everything. They lose Debo now. There's rumors of Ayuk being traded. He's coming off of injury. Even if he doesn't get traded, he's coming off injury. I highly doubt he starts the season. I wouldn't be surprised to start the season on Kupp. So with all that said, whether Ayuk gets traded or not, I want exposure to these 49ers weapons, bottom line. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, I think it makes sense, especially if Ayuk is not ready to start the year or traded. But just in general, when the big board started, all 4 49ers receivers, Debo included at the time, were kind of within 20 picks of each other. It just didn't make sense. No way they were all going to
get there. Yeah.
So I do like the 49ers. We know even in a down year last year was still a very potent offense.
Exactly. And everything went wrong for them. Yeah. So you have to think if they can stay even somewhat healthy, that this offense is one you want to target. And I think reasonable prices and a more condensed target tree. So I absolutely love that. What is a player or team that you're targeting more because somebody left?
So for me, I'm going to point first to Jacksonville. Obviously, Brian Thomas at the front, but I just mentioned 2 top weapons leaving: Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. Their other receiver last year, Gabe Davis, is coming off an injury. He'll probably be healthy, but they signed De'Ami Brown. There's not a lot there. So I think this is Brian Thomas, just ascension. He could be, like the Justin Jefferson type, just getting 28-30% target share, Cooper Kupp in his prime, et cetera. But the other guy there who you can get still much later is Brenton Strange. I think he's just coming in as the number 1 tight end. They signed a couple vet guys, but not guys who catch passes. So
they're more like blocking tight ends.
Yeah, right? This should be Brenton Strange's job. And he could be the number 2 option on this team. So, that's fantastic anytime you can get that for a tight end.
Yeah, and they have other needs that I don't see them addressing tight end early.
Yeah, tight end especially. They might grab a receiver early, but I don't think they go tight end early.
Yeah, no, I think this has been very helpful. It's helped me to talk this through and realize that there are a lot of people. Some of them are guys like Devontae that I already had a lot of exposure to, and some of them are guys like Najee and Godwin and Aaron Jones that I didn't, or Ingram that I know I need to get a lot more exposure to. So this is helpful, and hopefully you guys have found it helpful too. On your way out, be sure to hit that like button. It helps us. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. On the road to 500, when we hit 500 subs, which we are very close, we will have a $500 big giveaway live stream party. So help us with that. Check out our free content, currently free on fanspeak.com. Steve and I are writing articles every week. And again, make sure you're checking out everything on the FanSpeak Network, live draft strategy shows every single day here on the FanSpeak Network. This has been fun, Steve. We appreciate you guys watching. So for Steve, I'm Meg, and we will see you next time.